Hello everyone and welcome back to more of the Labyrinth of Grisaia in the last episode, and what an episode it was. Yuji's mother, Sakoto, basically told Yuji to, after the father found him, to leave this place, to go somewhere far away from here, somewhere where you can have a future, you know, where you can be better off than I am. And he went. He left for the train station, but his guilt caught up with him, and he ran back to the home, only to find that his father had been killed, and his mother had hung herself. It was just absolutely tragic. It's very depressing, and it's just horrible. And you know, and suicide isn't really something to joke about. It's you know, it's very serious. You know, if anyone has suffering from suicidal tendencies, you know, take that, you know, to heart. You know, don't just cast it aside like it's a joke. You know, people suffer. You know, they suffer deep, and you know, a lot of times it's buried deep within them, and until it just becomes far too much to bear. It's very sad. But with that said, let's continue on. What's with the long face? None of this is exactly news to you.
知ってはいても、こうして本人から直接聞けば、改めて複雑な気分になるわ。
I suppose. I don't think a family tragedy or two is anything out of the ordinary in our company.
まあ、確かにそうなんだけれど、こうしてみると、不幸の塊が服着て歩いてるような男ね、あなた。
You're going a little overboard there. You know, back then I thought God hated me in particular, but I grew out of that eventually. Misery's not exactly hard to find, you know, and everyone gets their share eventually, regardless of the life you may lead. I just happen to get a whole lot of it in a row. That's all.
それは今のあなただからそう思えるというだけのことよ。私とあなたが初めて会った時のこと覚えてる？
Let's see. Not that clearly, to be honest.
じゃあ次はその辺の話を思い出しながら進めましょうか。コーヒーのおかわりは？
Sure.
さ、ちょっといい？あだなんか喋りなさいよ。だってこんなユージこんな全部私が悪いのよ。
Oh no, Amane feels bad because she felt she left Kazuki to die.
いや、別にそういうこと喋れって言ってるわけじゃなくて、つか泣かないでよ。私が泣かしたみたいじゃないのよ。サチ、あんたもなんか喋りなさいよ。
と申されましても。
なんでもいいのよ。なんか喋れ。
なんか喋れというと、インドの神様か何かでしょうか。
ふん。
なんでやねん。もうサチったら母の
歯。松島さん、そんなに無理に空気を明るくしようとしないでいいのよ。
だって私はツンデレだから。
ラムネの食いすぎで頭飛んでんのか？
うっきゃー！本当にだけは言われたくねえ！静かにしなさい！守備は
それにしても、情報としてある程度は知っていたし、それなりに想像はしていたけれど、思った以上にハードな過去ね。
親の死を見ちゃうってのはかなりきついのよさ。私なんかもまだたまに夢に見るしな。立ち直るのに5年はかかるのよさ。
Yeah, it's never easy seeing a loved one die.
私が和樹を見捨てて逃げたからユージの人生がめちゃくちゃに。
Poor Mane. Look at her suffering.
あまねのせいじゃないじゃん。あんたそうやって何でも私が悪いで解決すんのやめなよ。
それは言い過ぎよ、松島さん。
私はこういう暗い空気嫌なのよ。ごめんねみちる、ありがとう。でもこの後は師匠とかいう人に引き取られてそれなりに楽しい生活ってやつをしてるんだよね。
いいえ、残念だけれど。
Happiness doesn't seem to find Yuji very often, does it?
私聞いたことある。確かお兄ちゃんのパパの知り合いの人に引き取られたんだよね。
表向きにはね。
裏向きがあるってこと？
そう。表向きには孤児となった風見雄二を引き取ったのは父親の知人で美術品の貿易商を営んでいる桐原レイという男。
Interesting.
でもその正体は世界中の紛争地に兵器を販売する武器商人というかテロリストだったという噂ね。
Even more interesting.
マジでか。つか風見雄二はどんだけ不幸になれば気が済むのよさ。
Some people suffer their whole lives and never have a moment of happiness. That's just the way the world is sometimes.
というかどうしてユージはそんな人に？
そこまでは私も知らないわよ。簡単な資料をもとに独自で調べただけだし。
Well, I kind of want to know how that whole relationship started, and hopefully we'll find out.
その桐原なる人物が男色癖と言いますか、少年愛に傾倒していらっしゃったからではないでしょうか。
It's kind of a reach. I don't know if I'd agree with that.
ちょっとサーチ、あんた突然何言ってんのよ。だいたい何を根拠に？
Yeah, where did that come from?
昔のゆうくんはそれはもうびっくりするぐらい可愛かったですから。
Yeah, Sachi was actually Yuji's friend way back when, but she didn't really remember him when he came here, so.
いやまあ、あんたの思い出の中のユージが美化されてるのは別にいいんだけれど、いくらなんでもそんな理由で子供を引き取ったりしないんじゃん。
It's a sick world out there, so I wouldn't put it past some people.
では続きを読みますか？
You know, morbid curiosity wants me to continue with the story, but you know, I don't know how much more heartache I can take.
こちらについ今しがた復元が完了した資料の続きがあります。これをお読みになられますかとお尋ねしているのですが、どうされますか？皆さん黙ってしまわれました。どうかしましたか？
いや、だってね。
自称ムードメーカーのみちる様がそんなことでどうしますか？わかりました。ではこの重たい空気を入れ替えるべく、この小峰幸がギャグを一つ。
Oh, she always has the best jokes, doesn't she? I'm so looking forward to it, but they're not as good as my jokes, but...
ギャグ？このタイミングで？
The mood's very heavy. Could be nice to lighten it a little bit.
はい。ではマキちゃん直伝の似ているシリーズから一つ。
Okay.
似ている。マクワウリとマノクワリは似ている。
Alright.
は？
I share your sympathies, Michiru. I don't quite know what she's getting at.
ごめんよ、サッチ。普段の私なら大爆笑したと思うけど、さすがに今は笑えないのよさ。
That joke was horrible. I'm pretty sure we've been over this a million times before, but I'll summarize for the record again. After killing my father and driving my mother to suicide, I was taken in by a man named Kirihara Ray, a fine art dealer who'd known my parents. But I think you know more about Kirihara's real identity than I do, right?
ええ、もちろん知っているわ。
That was his cover, so to speak, his front. I met an interesting man today. I remember my father telling me that one night when he came home drunk but unusually cheerful. He'd been introduced by the editor of a quarterly fine arts magazine to a man named Li Lishang, although he went by Kirihara Ray in Japan. Kirihara was an art dealer with strong connections in many countries, with numerous celebrities and influential politicians as clients. I first met him well before my family fell apart. Not long after the name Kazami Kazuki began to spread through the world of Japanese art, the man paid a sudden visit to our home to see her work. I wonder if it was that guy I was talking about, like in the early episodes. When her father scolded him.
すみません、桐原先生。わざわざご足労いただきながら、あいにくと和樹はまだ学校から帰宅しておりませんで。
いえいえ、こちらこそ突然の訪問で申し訳ありません。
That guy's familiar. Has I seen him before?
以前から一度は実物をこの目で直接拝見してみたいと思っていましてね。今日は本物を見ることができましたし、十分満足ですよ。
ご高名な桐原先生にそう言っていただければ、こちらとしましても大変恐縮です。それでいかがでしょう。娘の絵は金になりますでしょうか。
正直な方だ。ですから私も正直に申し上げましょう。絵の価値というのはそれを欲しがる人間次第なのです。
Well, that's true, I suppose. It's all in the eyes of the beholder, right? One person may view a work of art as worthless, while another, it may be a priceless work of art. Just depends.
そしてもっと正直なところを申せば、私どもの扱う商品の一部はある意味価値がわからない方がありがたいのですよ。以前お食事をご一緒させていただいた折にもご説明させていただきましたが、私どもの仕事とは絵を買い付けただ売りさばくことではありません。
Boy, that'd be a huge gamble. Buying paintings and reselling them, hoping to get some money out of them.
買い付けた絵に付加価値をつけることがメインの仕事なのですよ。
What does that mean?
未だ無名の画家から価値の上がりそうな絵を買い付け、それを必要とする人間に高値で売却する。絵画は贈り物として最適です。買い手はいくらでもいます。例えばある種の目的を持った人物に高額で絵を売却します。
Okay.
絵を買った人物はそれをとある人物に金銭的対価を求めずに贈与します。絵を贈られた方はそれを再び私どもに買い取りを依頼し、私どもはそれを高額で買い取る。そうすることで誰もが少しだけ得をします。高級絵画とはそうして生まれるのです。
Oh, I see.
そういう仕組みなのですよ。
If anything, it's just kind of giving value where there might not be any value on the painting at all, but just because it's being sold around a lot, it's looking like it's, highly sought after, which could increase its value tremendously.
つまりですね、私どもとしましては未だ手つかずで価値基準の明確でない無名の画家である方がありがたいのです。ではそれこそ子供の落書きでもいいのかという話になるのですが、それはそれであからさまに過ぎる。その点、お嬢さんの絵には人を引き寄せる魅力が十分にあります。今はまだ無名がゆえに買い手は限られていますが、 逆に私はそこに目をつけたというわけで、つまりはお互いというやつですな。
That makes sense.
それで娘の絵はだいたいいくらぐらいで買い取っていただけるのでしょうか。
買い取りは売り手のいいねです。つまりいくらにでもなるのですよ。現状この場で金額を提示するわけにも参りませんが、これは長年美術商に携わってきた私の勘でお答えするのであれば、おそ
Wow,
らくは
That's
数
a
千
lot.
万の値がつくでしょうね。
that is a lot of money.
ありがとうございます。
That day, after going home at my own pace because I didn't have any friends to play with or any reason to rush back, really, I just so happened to overhear the conversation from the hallway. In a way, it was kind of comical to see my father submissively bowing and scraping like a grasshopper, considering his usual I am God Almighty act. But mostly I remembered thinking, is this really how adults who make a living in art talk? It was so nakedly cynical that I was too amazed to even feel disgust. Unable to bring myself to walk past the open living room door, I stood awkwardly in the passage waiting for the conversation to end, but somehow Kirihara noticed my presence. He was a sharp-eyed man.
おや
His gaze stuck to me like glue. Kirihara's eyes were calm, yet somehow they reminded me of a carnivorous animal tracking its prey. A chill ran down my spine, my tongue refused to move. It was all I could do to bow my head quickly in his direction.
こちらの少年は
はあ、和樹の弟でユージと申します。
お
I like how
それは
I like how he introduces me as Kazuki's little brother instead of this is my son, Yuji. It's like, no, this is the person who's related to Kazuki, but not as good as Kazuki, so his name's Yuji. I didn't understand what that was supposed to mean. In retrospect, there might not have been any meaning there defined. The man named Kirihara, gazing down at me with appraising eyes, slipped a hand into the breast of his suit and in one smooth motion withdrew a gleaming golden cigarette case. As soon as my father noticed what Kirihara was holding, he hurriedly reached into his own suit in search of a lighter.
いや、火は結構。
When he opened the lid of his case, the clear tones of a tinkling music box began to flow out from inside. Interesting.
私はタバコを飲まないんだ。坊や、チョコレートは好きかい？
I don't know, my parents told me never take candy from strangers, but you seem like a straight-laced guy. Smiling brightly, he took out an expensive-looking piece of chocolate out of the case. Embarrassed to be offered candy by an unfamiliar adult and discomforted by the fact that I couldn't turn him down without being rude, I felt my ears growing hot in shame. You know, what do? Thank you very much. As I accepted the chocolate from Kirihara, I saw my father scowl. He wasn't upset I'd taken the man's present. It seemed more like bitter disappointment that I'd come home instead of Kazuki, you know, his meal ticket. Unable to endure his gaze, I bowed my head a second time, then turned around and fled to my room, like I'm apt to do. Whew.
かわいいお子さんだ。彼も絵を描くのですか？
Does Microsoft count?
いえいえ、めっそうもない。あれはそっちの才能には恵まれませんで、お恥ずかしい。
I was used to hearing my father call me that boy with derision in his voice, and to having people say, "We're not expecting anything of you," to my face. That was just how adults were. To them, children were just toys or tools. I resigned myself to that. And I was a useless tool, a defective plaything. Every time that man named Kirihara came to our house, he would send strange glances in my direction. Something about the way he looked at me was definitely different from the other adults I'd met so far. Even at the time, I'd vaguely sensed the desire in his eyes, and it made me uncomfortable. You know, somehow it didn't seem like the way an adult should look at a child. But even so, he brought me presents every time he visited, so I never really went out of my way to avoid him. I like chocolate. I was a little too innocent for my own good.
今日のお土産もあまり気に入ってはもらえなかったかな？
No, I really liked it. Really, I did.
いいさ、気にすることはない。秘密はあっても嘘はダメだ、ユージ君。
Do I really like the
私は
chocolates?
君を知りたいんだ。
Maybe they're nasty chocolates from some foreign country I've never heard of. And I'm just being polite. As Kirihara looked down at me with cool condescension, sorry, in his eyes, I felt an instinctive twinge of fear.
君はどっちなんだろうね。
Look at those eyes. Man, they were so gentle before. What happened?
子供というのはね、ユージ君。大きく2つのパターンに分類される。自由を欲しがるタイプと束縛を望むタイプ。
I don't think anyone prefers to be shackled. I think that's just how life handles it at times.
君はどっちなんだい？
I don't know.
なら後者だ。
Excuse me? At the time, I didn't understand what Kirihara was talking about, and I wasn't interested in trying to understand. That didn't change even after he adopted me. After witnessing the death of my parents, I withdrew completely into myself. When Kirihara came for me in the hospital, I was already a shell of a person. It's a nice room. As a child with no living guardians, I didn't have much say in choosing my destination, unfortunately. But more importantly, I'd lost the willpower necessary to even care at this point. What the hell?
よく似合うじゃないか、ユージ。相変わらず無口だな、君は。まあ、そういう君だから私は気に入ってるんだがね。
That's a doll, right? You really do have a face like a girl's. No, that's me! What am I talking about? Oh my god. Oh god, what? Why would he do this? That's sick. On a whim, Kirihara dressed me up in female clothes. And he liked the effect so much that from that day on I was given nothing else. Still, it's better than being beaten. Being forced to wear girls' clothes didn't bother me much, really. In any case, it's not like I could have resisted. A child can't survive alone. I had food, I had walls and a roof over my head. My clothes were fluttery girly things, but they kept me warm enough. There wasn't any problem.
ユージ、君は本当に可愛いな。
Kirihara loved dressing me up like a doll and sitting me on his lap. Lacking the will to object, I did exactly what he wanted. God, I wouldn't want to know what would happen if I tried to object. It's like a man that can be very frightening when necessary. Emptiness might be another word for absolute emotional overload. Even to myself, it was eerie how calm I felt. My mind was so deeply scarred that I'd lost all interest in life and death alike. No matter what happened, I couldn't manage to care. Kirihara treated me well so long as I was obedient. I didn't say a single word, but that never seemed to make him angry. As if to compensate for my silence, Kirihara would talk constantly, kind of like I am right now.
この国も本当につまらない国になったものだね。いや、それはこの国に限った話ではないか。1974年当時は世界中が楽しかった。まるで世界中が遊園地のようだった。
That's an oddly specific year. Can't say that I remember much of 1974, considering the fact that I wasn't born but 13 years later. I listened silently to Kirihara's words, but as always, they were incomprehensible. Then again, it's not as if he seemed particularly interested in helping me understand. It just seemed like he listened to himself talk. I was an object to him, a living toy. For Kirihara Ray, interacting with me was the equivalent of playing with a doll. As long as I kept still and didn't snarl or bare my teeth, I could sleepwalk peacefully through whatever remained of my life. It's not that I didn't understand what was going on. I knew. I knew exactly what was going on. I just simply chose to accept it. That's all I could do. That is, until the day when my unconscious mind rebelled.